Hey folks, today I'm going to be sharing 3 movies that are kind of my go-to to inspire me and put me in the mood to play D&D. Jumping right in is a cartoon fantasy from 1982, The Last Unicorn. You might recognize some of the voices: Jeff Bridges, Mia Farrow, Angela Lansbury, and Christopher Lee. So one of the things I love about The Last Unicorn is the travel and the exploration. You see this wide variety of landscape that they go through and meet all of these different interesting characters. And these characters that we meet are flawed characters. Schmendrick and also Prince Lur aren't perfect. They have flaws, but you get to see them grow through the course of the movie. Also, I gotta say, I love the circus. It was terrifying when I watched it as a kid, but the harpy, as well as the idea that magic can be used like as the illusion spells and stuff like that to trick people, and some of the more everyday common townsfolk wouldn't necessarily pick up on the magic that they are experiencing. In addition to the harpy, I love that they establish the lore that you don't run from an immortal. I will say this movie does a good job of every time that you're like, why are they doing that? They explain it. It makes sense. The talking animals in this movie are great. Being able to communicate, but having their own styles. I mean, the butterfly is very much a butterfly. It's flitty all over the place, but eventually gets to its point. And the cat is totally talking the way a cat would talk. And also, I mean, it's a pirate cat. It has an eye patch and a peg leg. How can you not love it? You have these magical elements, and you also have these characters joining together around one character and kind of this cause that they're on to find the rest of the unicorns. Through that, you also run into some riddles and puzzles that they have to solve, especially the riddle involving the clock trying to get down to the red bull. That's such a classic D&D type puzzle, and then having the talking skeleton that alerts King Haggard and they have to rush through. There's also battles, and you get these hints of Prince Lur running off and like defeating dragons and stuff like that. So it's not as battle heavy as some other movies that might inspire your D&D. It's a lot more of the character roleplay aspect. I also like that King Haggard is the villain of the movie, but he's not evil. He has his own reasons, and they might be incredibly selfish, and he's not a good guy, but he's not just flat out evil. So you've got all of the characters have hints of how dynamic they are. I will say I haven't read the book, but it's definitely on my TBR. The next one is another classic fantasy from the 80s, starring Carrie Ewells, Robin Wright, Mandy Patinkin, Chris Sarandon, Wallace Shawn, Andre the Giant, and Christopher Guest. And also don't forget Billy Crystal. And that's the 1987 The Princess Bride. I mean, come on. This is such a like D&D party. Look at all of the characters' backstories. You have, oh, I was captured by pirates, and then they didn't kill me and I became their captain, but now I'm off to find and rescue my lost love. Or my father was killed by a six-finger man and I'm after my revenge. Or I'm a giant that I don't really want to fight, but I got hired to be the muscle. Like, all of these characters have slightly ridiculous backstories that I can totally see these are the types of backstories that players come up with all the time that are fantastic. Also, the great locations. You have the fire swamp and the cliffs of insanity, even the pit of despair. These a little bit cliched location names, but also the locations act as this great obstacle that the characters have to get through. You've got a great representation of how perhaps a resurrection spell might affect a character when Wesley is mostly dead and they take him to Mad Max, and then he is slowly recovering from, dying. And also, just great fights. I mean, the fights in this are amazing. Such cinematic fights that also have all these quippy one-liners thrown in, and this playfulness that I really love, and love having those moments in game. Each of the characters have their own arc. The main story is following Wesley and Buttercup, but also Inigo Montoya's storyline of revenge for his father's death is in there, and there's a little bit of each character having their own arc and it all intermixing and meshing. Great example of how you can take multiple characters' backstories and weave them into the same plot line. It's such a fun movie, but the characters also have these serious moments that you can have fun, lighthearted games and have these serious moments in them. But also you can have serious moments that then turn goofy by having somebody be like, oh yes, alright, well you're going to kill yourself in your sleep tonight. That's nice. From the fights to the character backstories to the fantastical landscapes, Princess Bride is a great movie to put you in the mood for an awesome D&D game. The last one you may not expect me to put on this list, but it's also, I just realized all three of these are books, also based on a book. It came out in 2007, starring Claire Danes, Charlie Cox, Sienna Miller, Mark Strong, Ricky Gervais, Robert De Niro, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Peter O'Toole, with Ian McKellen narrating. I mean, that's a killer cast. Stardust. I love the world building, and it gives us an example of a different fantasy world than kind of the traditional Tolkien fantasy that a lot of D&D games tend to lean towards. There are some fantastical magic items in this world that we get to see use. The Sky Pirates are fantastic. If you have an airship in your campaign, there's some great inspiration for it here, as well as just the characters that you meet. The captain of the Sky Pirates might be my favorite, but the witches as well as the princes of Stormhold are these great characters, and is a great example of not needing to have one main villain, but you can have multiple groups that are all working towards the same thing that your protagonists want and need to get a hold of, and have to overcome these obstacles of not only trying to traverse the landscape and get back, but also having to deal with these opposing forces that are after the same thing. You also get to see Tristan really come into his own. You can kind of see the character progression. Not only is he growing kind of as a person with figuring out what he wants and all of that, but you also get to see him like learn how to sword fight and learn all of these skills as he's on this trek. It's fun seeing kind of some of the culture shock, and that's something that you could use for inspiration if you're playing an Outlander in a game, of things that you're used to might not be the norm in the world that you are stepping into. Those are three movies I would suggest checking out the next time you're looking for inspiration or to get excited for your next D&D game. Ryan made one of these videos a couple of months ago for D&D. You can check it out right up here, and I will say a number of his movies were also on my list, so go check it out and let us know what movies you find as inspiration for your D&D games. I want to give a special thanks to all of our patrons, and especially Bryce. Hi, Bryce! If you want to help support us, you can head over to Patreon and check out the perks of being a patron. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on Roll for Initiative. Bye! Back and forth. I mean, that's a